So good evening, everyone in District 3, or if you're watching this later, wherever you may be. I am here in beautiful Chandler, Arizona, and I am going to be presenting to you the judges training this evening. Now, Lena had gave some ground rules before, but I just wanted to reiterate now that we're recording, this recording is geared more towards newer Toastmasters who may, or this presentation is geared towards newer Toastmasters who may not have as much experience. I see that there's several individuals on here like Jim, who's a past district governor, who have several years probably of doing contests, doing Toastmasters. So please bear in mind that this is really geared more towards some of the newer folks. So this may be kind of repetitive for some of you, but please bear with us as we're trying to make sure that we have that baseline of knowledge across the district. So Lena already talked about who we are on the contest team. Now, I've gotten in the habit of actually bringing this up every time I do a presentation, just to remind everybody that's in the Toastmasters community that all of these wonderful, smiling, happy people that are on this list have volunteered their time to help put together presentations, materials for the contest team. The key word there is volunteer. So please, as you talk to these individuals or as you have questions, as you respond, please remember that these are all volunteers and that they're giving of their time. I have seen some of the emails that the trio and some of the others have gotten over the periods that I've been in Toastmasters, and I know people are very passionate, especially when it comes to contest season. But please don't forget your manners. Everybody here is trying to help you. Everybody is trying to put on a good contest season for the district. So please don't forget that we're human. Be patient with us, and we'll try to help you and enable you to do your contest as best we can. So the objectives for this evening. There are several things that I want you to walk away from after this training this evening. So number one, I want you to know who can and can't be a judge for a speech competition. We're going to talk about eligibility. Number two, I want you to understand how to fill out a ballot and the Toastmasters judging criteria, which is used with these ballots, which is very different than what you're probably used to in terms of like doing evaluations, where the focus is on looking for opportunities to help your fellow Toastmasters. Lastly, I want you to know what your responsibilities are as a judge. And in particular, that gets into the etiquette and the ethics of being a judge. Now, I actually just added one slide to this while Lena was talking because they just sent out an update, so it's not listed here, but it's a checklist that one of our volunteers has created for the judges. So I created a link in the presentation later on, and I'll open that up, but I didn't have time to add it here to the objectives. So we'll also look at that resource just so you are aware of what is actually available for you as a judge, or that you can pass it on as whoever is doing the judging for you. So overall purpose. Apparently I didn't complete the overall purpose slide. Overall purpose is for you to walk away as a judge and to know what those objectives, to know what you should be doing as a judge. So that is the overall purpose of this presentation. So you have been asked to be a judge. You're happy to do it. You're excited to do it. You want to do it and you want to contribute. But are you eligible to be a judge? There are criteria to being a judge, just like there is with being a contestant. Tonight, we're only going to focus on the eligibility for the area, division, and the club. And my little snippet here, we're mostly concerned about the area, but we're going to talk about for the lower levels of what the judging eligibility criteria are. There's other eligibility for once you go up into, if you happen to judge a regional or a semifinal. So we're talking about the district on down here. So to be a chief judge, a voting judge, or a tie-breaking judge at a Toastmaster speech contest, you must meet all eligibility requirements identified below. So this is actually taken from the Toastmasters rulebook on speech contests. If you're not aware, Toastmasters puts out a rulebook every single year. They update it every single year, and you can go and download it and read what the most recent eligibility criteria is, as well as what the updated rules are for all of these speech contests within Toastmasters. And this includes, this rulebook is all areas. It's from the club level all the way up to the international convention. So it's at all levels. And you can actually access it on the Toastmasters website. If you go to the contest section on the Toastmasters website, I'm not going to pull it up now, and you can search for the rule book on there. So the eligibility criteria for being a judge at a club, it is very, very, very simple. They just want you to be a paid member. As long as you are a paid member of Toastmasters, note that it doesn't say of the club, as long as you are a paid member of Toastmasters, then you are eligible to be a chief judge, voting judge, or tie-breaking judge within the club contest. Once you start talking about the area, the division, the district, we have a little bit more stringent rules here. So to be a chief judge, voting judge, or tie-breaking judge for a area, division, or district contest, I'm looking at 2A, you must be a paid member for a minimum of 6 months. So say, for example, you join a club, and the club is having a speech competition on the day that you join. You would not be eligible to be a area, division, or district judge if you were doing I said if you joined the club. If you joined your club, day one, you're eligible to be a judge for the club, but you're not at the area, division, or district. You have to be a paid member for a minimum of 6 months. You also must have completed a minimum of 6 speech projects in the Competent Communication Manual. For those of you that have been around for a while, that goes back a few years now, or earned certificates of completion in levels 1 and 2 of any path in the Toastmasters Pathways learning experience. A question came up whenever we were doing the area directors training about this. Well, what if I completed level 5 and level 4? I didn't complete level 1 and 2. I completed those later levels within the Toastmasters Pathway program. The way that I am reading this is that it says levels 1 and levels 2. So if you completed levels 4 and levels 5, you are not eligible to be a judge. You have to have completed levels 1 and level 2 to be a judge. I'm going to skip the next one on the pathways because I think that goes back a while now. Physically present, this is going to be a virtual contest, so it doesn't really apply. And lastly, Lena had talked about this when we first started. Candidates for elected district leader positions for the term beginning the subsequent July are ineligible to serve as a contest official or as a test speaker at the area, division, or district level. So what that means is if you are planning in next Toastmasters year, which will start on July 1st, if you're planning to try to run for a Toastmasters position, which is either like the trio, international director, division director, then you may not serve as a judge. That is a Toastmasters role. So if you do serve as a judge at the area, division, or district level, note it doesn't say club, club is fine, but if you do serve as a judge at the area, division, or district level in this upcoming competition, that will disqualify you from running for an elected office within a district leader position. So be aware. Also want to point out that I'm just highlighting some of the rules here. This is not all the rules. So I highly encourage you to go and download the rule book and to actually read it, go through it, understand it, know it. There's at least once or twice go through it and read over it. There's a lot of rules here and you want to make sure that you understand it. And I'm really just giving you the highlights throughout this presentation. I'm going to pause there. Lena, is there anything that I should have covered there? You think that covers it?
be a good chat. Jim, you could post the question in the Q&A. We will answer it at the end of the presentation. You can proceed, Chad.
Yep. So next, I'm going to talk about the actual ballot and the judging criteria. So judging versus evaluations. So this question has actually come up a couple of times in some meetings that I've been involved with. What's the difference between judging a speech competition and doing an evaluation? On the next slides, I'm going to go into the ballots and I'm going to show you what the ballots look like if you've never seen them. And I'm going to show the criteria that is actually attached to the ballots. On the second page, it actually gives you a list of criteria. But I wanted to just kind of highlight here my own interpretation of what the difference is between judging and evaluations. So to me, judging involves a strict set of criteria that you're using to compare a speaker against others. You have the criteria of the ballot, and you're trying to make a choice, a fair choice, about who is the better speaker. Now, that's a lot different than what we're typically trained as Toastmasters, right? Because typically we're doing evaluations. And evaluations are looking at a speaker and a speech from a slightly different perspective. We're looking at it with the intent of improvement, not with the idea of trying to find the one best overall. So there is a little bit of a shift. Judging is very similar to when you judge a competition and you're watching these speakers and you're listening to the speech. Judging is very similar to the evaluations, but what I think you'll find as we go through the ballot, there's a little bit more of an emphasis on some areas that if you haven't ever seen the judges' ballot before, they might just surprise you a little bit. So this is the International Speech Contest ballot, and I'm going to hopefully, if this works, oh, that did not work. I'm going to open up a in-depth or a bigger version of that so that you and I both don't kill our eyes. Back 1 second. That was the wrong one. We'll go back. So I'll start with the International Speech Contest ballot. So this is the ballot, the judge's guide and ballot for the International Speech Competition. Now, just so you're aware, I'm going to zoom this out a little bit, and then I'll zoom it back in so that you can see it a little bit better as we go through it, but I wanted you to get the overall view here. The way that you use the ballot is that when you have the contestants, you're going to write in the name of the contestants, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many contestants that you have. And you're going to be judging these contestants based upon that criteria that is on the left. And it gives you a handy dandy scoring guide here so that you can figure out or follow along with how Toastmasters wants you to judge these competitions. So I'm not going to go through and read each of these right now, but just notice that the content by itself is 50%. That's probably a little bit different than how you typically look at Toastmaster speeches when you're doing evaluations. Typically, I'm not as focused on the content when I'm doing evaluations. A lot of times I'm more focused on the delivery and the language. And maybe you're the same because you're trying to figure out how the speech actually lands within to the other people that are listening to the speech. But here within the judging, they want you really listening more to the content of 50%. The delivery is 30% and the language is 20%. And you can see the numbers there. They're a little sideways. you can kind of make them out. But as you do the judging, this is a nice sheet where you can just write in as you're listening to the competition, and you can write in what you feel about the different contestants. And then at the bottom here, you can write the total score. And this is what you can use to judge and decide who got the best possible score. Now, I know in years past, I've been a Toastmaster for about 15 years. So I've been around the Toastmasters block a few times. I've heard people talk about that, well, they don't really use the judging sheet. They just kind of watch the speeches and they just kind of figure out who they feel is first, second, third, and they don't really feel the need to go through and do all this scoring. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you use this scoring sheet because it helps to make things fair, and it makes sure that you're judging by the criteria that Toastmasters International actually wants you to judge on. And I don't know where my ballot went. 1 second. There we go. And to make sure that you're actually judging on what Toastmasters wants you to be judging on. Once you have done your total score, you can then write in on the judge's official ballot, this lower portion of the ballot, the first place, the second place, and the third place. Couple things that I want to highlight here to make absolutely sure that you see it, because no matter how many times you do these speech competitions, you get in a hurry, you forget. I've done it many a time. You must vote for a first, second, and third place on the ballot, or it will be voted, assuming that there's 3 or more contestants. If you have 5 contestants that's doing a speech competition and you only write the first place or the first and second place, your ballot is disqualified. Say that again. You must write in the first, second, and third places, assuming that you have 3 or more individuals that are doing the speech competition. Lastly, the signature of the judges and the judge's name. There are many, 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 many competitions that I have seen over the years where judges have sent in the ballots and they have accidentally forgot to sign the ballot. If you do not sign the ballot and you do not complete it with your name, your ballot will be disqualified. So please, please, please remember to take a second, read it, and make sure to sign and put your name on the ballot. So if you've never been a judge before, Toastmasters actually gives you this handy dandy guide in addition to the scoring sheet that shows the judging criteria. Gives you the purpose, the content, the delivery, the language, and then lastly, the judge's code of ethics. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here. But notice again, content, that makes up 50%, while the delivery is 30% and the language is 20%. So speech development, I'm not going to read this to you, but just know that you should be looking for clear purpose, clear organization, clear opening, body, and conclusion. Effectiveness of the speech. Now, they point out here that really gets into subjective judgment of how the speech comes across. So that really is an area where you can take it and kind of feel what's the effectiveness of the speech. And as I pointed out before, I think a lot of times as Toastmasters, we're looking more at this effectiveness piece when we're giving feedback than we are these other areas. But here they're weighting these pretty much equally. So just be aware. Speech value justifies the act of speaking. Are they actually saying something that is worthwhile? Now, what I will tell you is be a little generous with that, especially with the newer Toastmasters. Sometimes the speech value with some newer Toastmasters, it's a learning curve, but just make sure there's some type of value into the speech. There's some purpose within the speech to be scoring upon. Delivery, physical, voice, and manner, right? So this is how you perceive that contestant and how they're physically presenting themselves, their voice, and their manner of how they're actually speaking with the audience and connecting with you. Language, appropriateness, and correctness. We want to make sure that we're using proper grammar, that we're speaking in a professional way, that we're not using a lot of slang or other, I would call it non-professional language. So let's make sure that the language that the contestants are using is appropriate and correct. That is the speech contest ballot. Key takeaways. Speech content is extremely important. The topic isn't. Now, I know we have already got some questions within the contest team about what we would consider some very, very, very controversial topics. I think common sense and professionalism says that certain topics are probably not the best topics to go out and win a speech competition. But as a judge, it is your responsibility to be fair. And if you have someone who does a racy topic or does something that that you may not agree with, do your best to be fair and to be equitable and to judge that contestant based upon the content, the delivery, and the last one was the oh gosh, what was the last one? The language, not necessarily the topic. And I just point out here again, content is 50%, delivery is 30%, language is 20%. The evaluation ballot. So I'm going to go a little bit faster over this. You can see it's a lot shorter, but same thing. You can write in the contestants, and this is how you should be judging the contestants within the evaluation contest. Analytical quality, recommendations, technique, summation. You write in the score, and then you put the first, second, and third here. Same rules. You need to make sure that you cast a vote for the first, second, and third, assuming that there are 3 or more contestants, and that you're signing the ballot and putting your name here. I want to reemphasize, because it happens every single contest season, that where a judge sends in the ballot and they forget to sign it and it gets disqualified. The criteria. So analytical quality, the effectiveness of the evaluation. Are they analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the speaker's presentation? And this is the second page of the ballot, by the way. So on both of these, when you go to the Toastmasters website and you access the ballot, the second page of the ballot is going to have the criteria. So when you download it, you can actually read through these on your own. Recommendations. Does the evaluator point out the strengths and the weaknesses of the speech, but also give specific recommendations for improvement, right? That's really the cornerstone of what the Toastmasters evaluations are about. The technique. How does the evaluator evaluate the test speaker? And do they give, how do they present those comments and recommendations? And then finally, do they summarize the evaluation? Now, this is something that I've had personal experience with. I've competed in many speech competitions, and sometimes we'll get to the end of the evaluation contest and somebody gives a really, really good speech evaluation, but they end up losing because they forgot to give a summation of their evaluation. The summation that is called out here on the ballot, and these evaluators should be summarizing their evaluation whenever they're giving it. And if those contestants haven't looked at the ballot, they may not realize that. And that is, it's been a bone of contention, at least in a few speech competitions that I've participated in, that they forgot to give the summation, and folks who thought should have won and didn't end up winning. So just wanted to call that out here. Key takeaways. Analytical quality is 40%. Recommendations is 30%. Technique is 15%. And the summation is also 15%. So this is how you should be weighting. That's how you should be weighting your evaluation, your judging of the evaluation contestants. Resources. So you and I are going to discover this together because this just got posted 5 minutes ago. So on the contest website, or on the Arizona Toastmasters District 3 contest website, one of our colleagues, Harsha, has created this document, which is called Voting Judge Duties. And it gives you a list of things that you should be doing as the judge. So, and also it's kind of like a checklist. And she highlights some of the key areas. Now, I'm going to show you where this is real quick. Nope, wrong one. It is on the District 3 website.
I've just posted the link on the chat as well for everyone.
Okay, cool. So you can access it by going to the District 3 website, events, contest. Scroll down. And you will find current contest resources. That'll take you to this folder. Note there's past years here as well. That's in the red. So you want to make sure to click on the right one. 2023, 2024 resources, judge, and voila, voting judge duties at area contest. Let's see, what else is in here? I'm not going to read this to you. This is actually the first time that I'm looking at this. She's just giving you some links and some helpful information, so you can go back and review this on your own. Again, the contest team has spent a significant amount of time putting together these checklists, putting together scripts, putting together feedback on how to do almost any function that you can imagine, right down to sending out emails. So I highly, highly recommend that you look at the District 3 website for the resources on the contest, check them out and use them. Because it will make, whether as a judge, chief judge, contest chair, we've tried to make your life as easy as possible this year. And
yeah, Shad,
is there anything you wanted to call out on this?
Yeah, I just thought I'll quickly touch upon a few important points from this checklist. Could you zoom out a little, because I'm not able to read it? Yeah, just a few points I would want to quickly draw everyone's attention to. So the first section, yeah.
How's that?
No, to make it a little bigger.
Oh, bigger. Okay.
Yeah, zoom in. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the first section on this contest judges checklist or the duty list is just going to talk about what you have to do before the contest. And as most of you will be familiar, before the contest, you need to submit your judge's eligibility form to the chief judge. That's the first link that you see. And your chief judge will let you know how you would communicate with the chief judge during the contest. So sometimes they will have a text chain, or it could be an email chain. So that is something you can discuss with them. And then the third bullet point under before the contest are the ballots that Chad just showed us. So this is all the information you need to be prepared before the contest. Now, during the contest, you need to, just wanted to tell you a few important things. So you as the voting judges would be part of the functionaries briefing, which happens prior to the contest being started. So for area contests, how we go about it is at least 45 minutes before the actual contest start time, you will have to join in, all the functionaries join in. And once you join in, the Zoom master will be helping you out with some of the points that is written over here, because we need to be very careful that the anonymity is maintained, because contest judges are confidential. So a few Zoom functionalities, like you have to turn off your camera and you will have to rename yourself. For example, let's say if Sue is one of the contest judges for a contest, before she actually enters the main room, they will rename her as maybe judge number 1, or whichever is the judge number that is given to her for that particular contest. So the renaming of the judges happen, the camera needs to be turned off, and there won't be any profile photos as well, so that it'll take care of maintaining the confidentiality of judges. So some of these things will be done before you are let in by the Zoom master into the main contest room. And once you're in the main contest room, you will be moved into a separate breakout room in Zoom, and the chief judge will be briefing you there. So the chief judge will be briefing the timers, the sergeant-at-arms, the ballot counters, and finally the judges as well. So in that briefing room, they will be talking, the chief judge will be going through all these points. If you could scroll down a bit, Chad. So the chief judge will be taking you through all these points, that you need to focus only on the contestants, not the timers. That is something which is very important. Even if you see a timer showing the red signal, you do not have to be worried whether that particular contestant is going to be disqualified for time. That is something that the timer and the chief judges will be taking care of. Irrespective of time, you have to make sure that you judge that particular contestant. So that's why we have that point, focus only on contestant and not the timers. And once you've finished judging all the contestants, you'll have to fill it in the ballot like what Chad has already gone through. And there is also a point on protests over here. So if there is any protest that you would like to raise, And little more about protests is there in the contest rule book. So if you could have a look at it there. But to give you a summary, protests can be raised either by voting judges or contestants only. No other functionaries nor anyone from the audience are allowed to raise protests. And protests are raised for 3 reasons primarily. One is if the candidate is ineligible. So that is to do with the eligibility checks. And ideally, if it is taken care of before the contest, because contestants will do the eligibility checks before the contest, so that will take care of the eligibility part. And the other 2 reasons why protests can be raised is one, for originality of speech, and the second one is if a candidate is referencing another contestant's speech. So that is what is mentioned over here. So the rule book says that 25% or less can be a referenced material from a quote, or you can paraphrase, or you can reference someone, but they also have to indicate who that quote is by. So all that details is there in the contest rule book, that is regarding originality. And the other one is the candidates are not supposed to reference and other contestants' speech from the same contest. So these are the only reasons why a protest can be raised. So the chief judge will also brief you through some of these guidelines in the functionary briefing section. And finally, yes, you will have to submit only the lower portion of the ballot to the chief judge. So just wanted to quickly take you through this, and we have this available in the resource folder as well for you to go in detail at a later point in time. Yeah, you can go ahead, Chad. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me get back here. So that was the resource. We'll post these slides as well. So once this will be the link to it. I didn't have a chance to clean it up because I got the email right as I was jumping on, but the resource is in there. Judging etiquette and ethics. So that sheet that Lena just went over, a lot of this is now going to be repetitive, so I'm not going to go back over it in detail. Use that sheet. That's a handy one-page reference so that you know what you should be doing as a judge, and you know some of the technical things that you should be doing. Just note that there's an ethics that is attached to doing a speech competition, right? You want to make sure that you're being ethical and you're being fair. And on each of the ballots, you will find the judge's code of ethics. So read over it once you get the ballot. Most of this is pretty obvious. Just you want to be fair. You want to make sure that the contests are fun. You want to make sure that you're not favoring somebody, right? Maybe somebody from your club, somebody from your area, whoever that it is. Try to do your best. I know the district sometimes seems kind of small, especially when you do these area competitions and so forth. You kind of know everybody. You kind of know everybody's proclivities, but do your best to remain unbiased and to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. That was the International Code of Ethics. Here's the Judges Code of Ethics for the evaluation. A little shorter, but they more or less covered the same material. You can read these on the ballots. Key takeaways. It is not the judge's responsibility to keep track of time. Lena already talked about that the judges must remain anonymous. So from a practical perspective, whenever you join the Zoom, we're talking about area contests primarily, which are going to be virtual. You're going to join early as a functionary. You want to make sure that after you have those briefings, you are blanking out your screen. That also includes your name. A neat little trick that they actually shared on the Chief Judges training, which I had never heard of this before, but you can do this. You can take, here's a rag that I have, and you can put it over the camera, and now you can't see me. You only see the background, but that way it also blinks out your name, so that, because if I turn off my video, real quick, you'll notice it's going to show with a picture of me on there, or if not the picture, it'll have my name. So by using the little rag trick here, it won't show my picture, and you won't be able to see me. And then you'll actually change the name whenever you're in the Zoom. You can change it to Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3, just by doing renaming. But this was the little rag trick that I learned yesterday on Chief Judges training. So that was really, really good. So I was wondering how I was going to do that.
Yeah, Chad, just to quickly add a point there. So yes, this renaming, as I mentioned before the contest starts, when you're joining in, either you or the Zoom master, you would be able to rename. So once you rename, then you will no longer have, like if I'm going to rename myself, it wouldn't show Lena Jo. Then after, it's going to show whatever is the new name that I put in there. So if I put in like a judge 1 or a judge number 2, whichever is assigned to me for the contest that day, then that is what will be showing. And then, yes, I will be turning off my camera as well. So one more thing, this profile photo, like I'm taking the example, there are a few who have joined in today where we can see the profile photo. That also will not be happening in the area contest. So like how now Chad, when he turned off his camera, you can see his profile photo. So that's not going to happen during the area contest, because in Zoom, we have a functionality where we can hide profile photos. So that way, once you hide the profile photo, once you turn off your camera, and once you rename your self into judge number so-and-so, then there is no way anyone's going to know who is joining in from your account. Yeah. Thank you, Chad.
You can use the rag trick too, so I don't want that one to go to waste.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Sorry, I put myself on mute. Protests and logistics. So Lena has already went over this. I'm not going to go back over it, other than just to show, if I can, it's not going to open. Give me a second here. Let me come out of share. Because it's going to not do that. 1 second. Let me pull that up. So in the, Lena's already went over it, but in the, what I wanted to call out is that within the Chief Judges training, if you happen to have a protest, still sharing? I am still sharing. In this document, it actually, there's some information within the Chief Judges training about how to handle that. And it was somewhere in here. Protest procedures and rules. So this wasn't in the original judges files. Now it is, which they just updated. So this is why I was linking to the Chief Judges document. So you can see the protest procedure and rules, and it talks about the different rules. You must not reference another contestant. Up to 25% of the speech must be unoriginal. You can either review this within the Chief Judges training, or feel free to go back and just look at the checklist now that we have provided for you. And let me share again. Actually, that is the end of the presentation. We're at 6:15. We wanted to leave some time for some questions, if there were any. So I will come off share here and see if there are any questions from anyone. We're happy to take whatever questions we can or advise as we can, please.